it is the most transportable asset globally, which means it is the most pro-human asset worldwide, in my opinion. And if you want to take your assets with you and you have, for example, real estate, you have to sell it. And then if you're lucky, you pay 10% tax on that or 20% tax on that. And then how do you take the money with you? The bank is going to ask you, where is this money coming from? And then you have to provide documents and you have to dox yourself there. It's not supposed to be a political system. It's not a political system. It's a monetary system. And it is a tool that gives everybody optionality and freedom to choose to go anywhere, anytime, where you are treated best. That's what Bitcoin does. It empowers individuals to choose because the incentives are put in the right place. If you perform, you stay. If you don't perform, get out. It's that simple.
Hi, Ruzbeh. How are you doing? Everything fine on your end?
Hey, yes, all good, Robin. It's been a very long time. I remember the last time we talked, I was in Japan. I was in a hotel, and I literally recorded the podcast with you while sitting on the bed of the hotel. And I just had a flight behind me from South Korea, I think. This is what I remember from our last interview, but it's good to see you.
It was the last one was the Japan, and before that was in Vienna, where you were actually in person here, and now you're back in Dubai, if I'm correct.
Yes. Now I'm back in Dubai. Well, when I came to see you in Vienna, I lived in Munich, so I believe I was also your first in-person guest on the podcast, which was pretty great. But right? Am I right? I was right.
You were the first in person in my living room. I had some, I think, in Prague and like in other areas, but you were the first.
Oh, in your own place. Yes. Okay. Got it.
In my own studio, you were the first one. I think I had others, before, on other studios where other ones did the studio. So like you were definitely the first. And I remember the bad setup I had. Like I literally just took my setup and like made another chair next to me. I'm like,
I remember
here.
I really enjoyed the conversation, though. I had a really good, it was a really good episode. I really enjoyed it. Yeah. But, the last time I was in Japan, exactly. But here we are again. And that's what I was saying was I was in Munich. So I lived in Munich when I came to visit you in Vienna. But we moved back to Dubai. So I am now officially living here, away from Europe. Finally made it.
So this is super interesting for me because when you first moved to Dubai, did you move there just to check it out, or did you actually move there for like a long time and say like, okay, I really want to be in Dubai?
No, I actually lived there between 2011. I wish I knew about Bitcoin, but I didn't. Between 2011 and 2016, I was here. I worked here, so I was here because of work. So I was forced to come to Dubai back then, but this time I chose to come to Dubai. So
that's the difference. Okay, interesting.
Yes.
And after you stopped working there, and then you moved back to Munich.
No, I moved back to Switzerland. I moved back to Europe, but I didn't go to Germany. I went to Switzerland. I stayed in Switzerland for, I believe, 4 years in Zurich. Then from Zurich, I went back home to Germany, North Germany. I'm from Hamburg, so back to my hometown. And then from there, I met my wife, and we moved to the south, Munich, and we still didn't like it, and we decided that we're gonna make a move to back to the Middle East.
So now, like, what was the main 1-2 reasons that made you both kind of switch to Dubai back?
Yeah, it was a really, really tough decision. Well, the thing is, if you've been around in a couple of countries, you realize that Europe is getting worse and worse over time, right? It's really getting more dangerous. It's less safe. It's not the best place where you can really build your base. You know, it's a great place to come and go, but if you want to build your base, it doesn't have much to offer, especially if you are and I'm gonna be very open and public about it. I don't care. If you don't need a government handout, Europe is probably not the best place to be because the system is just designed to give handouts to people, and this has really affected everything. So it goes down to free money, right? So they just get the money from the central bank and or create the money from nothing and hand it out to people, and this has distorted the entire marketplace with people not being motivated to work at all. If they, even if they do work, they don't do it because they like it. They just do it like, you don't have the quality of products and services in Europe anymore. The mentality is, and it's a little bit difficult to say it based on Europe. I mean, I can only speak for Germany, so it might be different in other European countries. But in Germany, what we realized at the end was there is not enough people for work. I mean, literally, companies are crying to get people to come to work. And that has caused services and quality of services to drastically decrease and be like really, really under average, even like really bad, not even average. And everything is getting more and more expensive, but the quality you get for what you paid is not available, So Dubai is not cheaper, it's not cheaper, but I get something for what I pay. So that's the main difference. So this made us to decide to make the move, because I'm like, even if you do have the money in Germany, you do not have the services necessarily, or products, or the right places to go to do something, because the demand isn't there, because people don't spend on stuff like that, So that is the reason we moved to Dubai. We're very, very happy here. It has changed completely. It's not the same Dubai I'm used to. Completely. So many new buildings, so much new stuff has been built over the years. It's unfreaking believable. It's really, really, really amazing what they have done in the past few years. Yeah, I mean, you also have your disadvantages here, but you have to make trade-offs. If you want to, build something for the long term, you have to think of your safety. If you want to have kids, if you want to build your own family, you cannot be in a place where, and the problem is, if you stay somewhere and you have your family there, if you get children and you have your own family, it's going to get more difficult over time to move. I know a lot of people in Europe, they cannot move, not because they don't want to, because they can't, because they have their kids in schools, they have their jobs, and so on and so forth. So it was also one of the other reasons why we said, okay, this is the time. Like, we can decide now. Later, it will be too late and it will be more difficult. And that's why we made the decision and we made the move.
Have you considered, and I'm asking that because USA is such a huge place, and most of the audience is also from the USA. Have you considered other places, for example, the USA?
No, it's out of question for me, to be honest. Well, the US is a great place if you're not used to anything else. The US, in my opinion, is not an option. I mean, the thing is, I love Americans. I love them. I really, I have a lot of friends from the US. I have family from the US, but I could never live there. But the thing is, Robin, see, the location where you want to live is so subjective. It's so different for everybody. You cannot compare your own circumstances with other people's circumstances, right? So we wanted a place where we get something for what we pay that is safe, but is also not too far away from our family. So our family is mainly in Europe, and Dubai is not very far from Europe. It's like 5 or 6 hours flight. That's okay. You know, the US is on the other side of the entire planet, and the time zone, the flights, it would be too much. It's just too far for us, you know. But if you are an individual who's already in the US, and you know, you don't care paying 20%, 25% capital gains tax and never being able to live off your Bitcoin and all of that, then you can stay there. You know, it's also very difficult to actually exit the US. I believe there's even an exit tax now, and it's not easy to just leave, you know. But for me, Dubai is the best option because I used to live here. It's tax free. I don't pay anything to the government. Things are more expensive, but I also don't pay any taxes, so I'm okay with that. And I have, for the prices you pay here, you have a level of living standards that are uncomparable. I've been to many places, as you know. I've lived in many places as well. Not only been, I've lived in many places. No other place on earth could I exchange for living standards with Dubai. You know, if anybody has lived here more than a year, then you know actually what I'm talking about. The level of comfort you get here and quality you get here, it's very, very difficult to go anywhere else because everything else will feel like a downgrade, you know?
It's whenever I talk with people that live in the Dubai or like in the UAE actually, like I hear the same thing. Like it's fascinating. So I haven't never lived in the Dubai or like in Abu Dhabi. I've been to Dubai once. I have been to Abu Dhabi once. I will be in Abu Dhabi soon again in, when is it? December, I think, the Bitcoin Mina one. So I'm curious to check it out. I do love, this is the one thing that I probably miss a lot. Like, I love walking around the city. Like, I don't know if it changed, like, but I just love like, going out there and just like walking like 5 kilometers across the city, like to get something instead of like using the car or using the public transport. I just like really love walking through a city. That's probably the biggest thing I would have missed, but that's like a small thing, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, these are the trade-offs, unfortunately. You have the same problem also in big cities like, you know, in Miami, you have the same problem. In many cities in the US, you have the same problem. You have to have a car. If you don't have a car, you don't go anywhere. You can't go anywhere. Yeah, I get that. And also nature is you're gonna be missing a lot of nature, a lot of green, you know. See, the thing is, what I came to a conclusion of, you need to have a base, okay? Depending on your financial situation and, you know, how much Bitcoin you have, in our case, Bitcoin, right? That really is going to enable you to have a base. Once you have a base like Dubai, you have all the freedom in the world. You don't pay any taxes, you're free. You have to have the right passport. So if you have a European passport, great. If you have an American passport, great. So that's the first thing, because you can never ever get a passport here. It's impossible. It's not going to happen. So you have to have a good passport. Once you have a good passport, if you want to have a good base for your tax, for your for your entire safety for the long term, to even raise your kids, Dubai is an amazing choice. It's very international. You don't need to speak Arabic. Everybody speaks English here. It's actually, if you speak Arabic, you have a disadvantage. If you don't speak English and only speak Arabic, you have a disadvantage here. You don't have any advantage here. So English is the first language. Everybody is foreign. Everybody, like 90% foreigners here. Okay. So you will not feel like you are a foreigner because everybody is a foreigner. And since the system has been built in a way that they want people to come here, in order to get settled, it's very easy to get settled in Dubai. The system is completely digital. Everything is based on, you know, there's not much paperwork, bureaucracy here happening. You know, everything is quick, fast, easy. So when it comes to that, it's great. But once you have the base, that's my way of thinking of this, is you can then travel, because Dubai's location is amazing. You can go to Thailand in 4 hours, 5 hours. If you want to go to Thailand from Europe, it's going to take you 12 hours probably, right? Other Asian countries, same distance, South Korea, all 5 to 6 hours. Same to Europe, 5 to 6 hours. So because you're exactly in the middle, right? You're in the middle of the East and the West, Middle East, so for that purpose, it's amazing. So you can travel out and go and like, if you stay in Dubai for 12 straight months, you're going to go nuts. You cannot do that. I don't advise doing that to anyone. It's gonna feel too much.
Is it the lack of nature? Is this like the high tech environment, or like what is it?
Yeah, especially in summer, because summer is so unbearably hot here. It goes to 45, 47 degrees. You are 95% indoor. So summertime is the time when most people leave the country and go back home to Europe or to the US and come back. But you have, I would say, 9 to 10 months, you have amazing weather here. But 2 to 3 months, you got to get out.
It's the summer vacation that you do then in
exactly.
Germany.
But it's the opposite. If you can afford it, it would be amazing if you have your base here, and during summer you go to Europe, because summer Europe is amazing. It's like paradise. It's beautiful, right? But most of the other time it's gray. I mean, except the southern countries, but in our area where you're from, where I'm from, like Austria, Switzerland, and especially Germany is a little bit more north, and it's unbearable. Like, especially where I'm from in Hamburg, it's just constant rain and gray weather. I can't stand that weather over the long haul. It doesn't work.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, because like this winter I will be in Abu Dhabi once. I will be probably El Salvador, maybe in Miami once. So I'm fleeing from the winters. Like for me, it's like Austria the base, and then when it's getting cold, I'm like, I'm gone.
At some point you can swap. You can make your base where you're most of the time, so you travel less. If you live in Dubai, you don't need to travel much. You have to travel once in a while, which you do anyways. But instead of traveling during winter times, you travel during summer times. That's the opposite.
How actually important do you think is the location sovereignty for Bitcoiners? Like the plan B, the kind of thinking of like, I want to have at least maybe a second passport, but at least like a second base where I can go if something is going wrong. How important do you think is this in the overall like security of a Bitcoiner?
Yeah, very good question. I mean, more and more Bitcoiners are choosing Dubai, like myself. Many Bitcoiners are moving to Dubai. In my opinion, it's the best option if you have a good passport. If you don't have a good passport, it's probably not the best. And you need to have some form of income or enough assets to live off from. Because if you don't, it's going to be very, very difficult here to, have, I would say, if you, for example, Switzerland is a good example, right? You're from Austria, I'm from Germany. We know if we go to Switzerland, you have a very good income. And the income is probably double the amount of Germany. I'm not sure about Austria, but it's the double the salary. Taxes are much, much lower, and you can get a citizenship, right? So if I didn't have the passport I need, I would never ever come here. I would probably try to get a passport first in one of these countries. And Switzerland, if you go to Switzerland, for example, if you can go to Switzerland, it's very hard to go there, very difficult to go there. But if you can go to Switzerland and actually find a job, you can make a lot of money and you can save. You cannot save much in Dubai because the temptation of spending is very, very high here. But in Switzerland, you are able to save a lot of money and you don't have to pay taxes immediately, unlike Germany. In Germany, if you get a salary, like everything gets deducted before you even see the money, right? In Switzerland, you get paid first and then you file taxes later. It's just like as if you're a business owner, even as an individual. So that's really good about a place like Switzerland. If you don't have the income or enough Bitcoin yet, I would do my best to go to Switzerland first. That's what I did as well. Stack as much Bitcoin as you can, get the passport, and then you can still choose. You can stay in Switzerland, but you can also move anywhere else. But for somebody who doesn't have that, or who does have that, sorry, if you do have the financial ability to start your own business, you have the passport, and you want to have a good base, and you want to have safety, and you want to have a place where you can send your kids to schools without worrying that they get taught some trans leftist bullshit at school about if they should be a boy or identify as a girl, then you should come to Dubai because none of that happens here. It's in my opinion, it's the most sane place compared to the West. It really is, because they don't follow this leftist agenda of teaching children, and they really, really punish people who are criminals big time. Like, you have zero criminality here. You can go out, you can put your phone on your desk or on any table in any shopping mall, come back 2 hours and it's still there. Nobody's going to touch it, so it's very, very safe, and it gives you all these options. But again, you have to have the right paperwork and you have to have the money in order to be able to come to a place like Dubai.
Super interesting. I did not intend at all to talk about that, but like I think it's super interesting to think about the location freedom, especially as I see Bitcoin kind of the money that gives you wings, the money that does not have really borders. You as a person still have borders, like you have like a passport, and the passport makes a difference of where you can go. You might have a job that is tied to location. There's more and more remote jobs. There's more and more like entrepreneurial spirit, like the move towards more freelancing, more smaller companies, and less of like big companies is definitely noticeable. And all those trends kind of come to one thing together, where countries, and I think Dubai just like really gets that already, and countries all over the world have to do this in the future. They have to compete for the best talent. And I kind of like, I think Europe is still in a like kind of dreamland where they're like, oh, we don't need that. We are Europe. They're like almost arrogant of saying like, hey, yeah, everyone wants to come here. And I think they might wake up one day and feel like, oh, all the great people left us, and we are left with not the great people, and now we have a shitty country and nobody wants to come here. Like, how do we reverse that? And it's really hard to reverse that.
Why would I stay somewhere where I don't get for what I pay? I would never, if I have the money, why would I go somewhere where I have to pay 10 times more taxes than a different country, especially if I'm a Bitcoiner? Why would I do that? If I have because Bitcoin, we know, if anybody's listening, is probably orange-pilled because he's listening to your show. The beauty of Bitcoin is, as an asset, and I had this tough discussion with one of my family members, because he was saying Bitcoin is not a good, it's not a solution because it's not the right political system. It's not supposed to be a political system. It's not a political system. It's a monetary system. And it is a tool that gives everybody optionality and freedom to choose to go anywhere, anytime, where you are treated best. That's what Bitcoin does. It empowers individuals to choose. And consequently, as you said, the politicians will follow, because they cannot stop people anymore through taxation and all these barriers that they try to put around their citizens to make them not leave, because finally there is an asset that gives these people the option to say goodbye. I'm out. You cannot stop me. You cannot take my money away. I'm leaving. You know, that hopefully will improve countries over time. But first, it will take a long time until these people even realize what's happening. And as you said, most people who have the money, who have the power to build businesses, they are going to leave. If you pay poor people to come to your country, then you're going to end up with a bunch of, non-entrepreneurial money. And it has nothing to, this is what I also hate. A lot of people talk about, this wave of people being against Muslims everywhere in Europe. And they think it's because of the religion that they ended up in that situation, right? So I don't want to become political in this podcast, but it's just an observation that I've noticed, and it's actually sad because here in Dubai, over 90% of the population are Muslims. There is zero criminality, no criminality at all, and there's a lot of poor people here. Zero criminality, almost non-existent, and everybody is thinking to provide and to help and to solve problems. Why? Because the incentives are put in the right place. If you perform, you stay. If you don't perform, get out. It's that simple. If you perform, great. If you don't perform, you have no place in this market because people will not choose your service. They're going to choose a different service. So competition is going to eat you. If you misbehave, if you don't provide the right service to the marketplace, you're going to get punished, right? And if you're criminal, you're going to get deported immediately. You have no place here to stay, And Europeans, they have really exaggerated with the way they are treating immigrants, right? I'm an immigrant myself. I have nothing against letting people come in. This is how you can actually grow your country. This is what the Emiratis are doing as well. They're letting 90% of the population to come in, but they're letting them come in on their own terms. They say you're all welcome to come, but we have a culture that you need to respect. We have rules. We have this and that. And if you do that, everything is going to be fine. You're going to become rich, and we're going to make sure you become rich, and you're going to get everything you asked for here, But the opposite is happening in Europe. And that's so sad. And more people who are smart, who are rich, who can build stuff are leaving Europe because there's absolutely no incentive for them to stay. And because of Bitcoin, everybody has a choice now. If you understand it, you're going to say, hey, I'm not going to stay here because I'm mistreated, and I'm going to say goodbye and I'm going to leave. And there's nothing you can do as a country or as a politician to stop me from here. You can't. I'm going to go somewhere else. If you change your rules and regulations and you become friendly again, I'm going to come back. But if I am scared to go on the streets because you want to help the entire world and let everybody in and show them no consequences if they are criminals, then I'm not going to feel safe and I'm going to leave. It's that simple. It's just common sense. It's actually common sense that you need to show people consequences. If they misbehave, you have to show consequences. If they don't provide services, you should not pay them for staying home. You need to get punished if you don't work. You should not get rewarded if you don't work. It's insane that people get actually rewarded for not working in Europe. It's insane that they get paid for not working. So people ask themselves, why should I go work if I get paid for not working? Why should I do that? So everybody wonders, why is everything getting worse in Europe? Well, because you're paying people to not work, to misbehave, and show them absolutely no consequences. That's why.
The most important thing for your Bitcoin journey is not buying Bitcoin, but it's how to keep them. And yes, you have maybe the right tools, but how do you actually go ahead and stick it all together so it's the most secure for you personally? Self-custody is a deeply personalized journey, and the Bitcoin way is helping you exactly finding that correct setup for you personally. They are also helping you with securing your own cybersecurity. And if you want to go one step above all that, you can even get a consultation for a Plan B residency. Go to thebitcoinway.com/Robin and you will get a 30-minute free consultation. I finally and officially mine Bitcoin. This is not just something to stack more Satoshis, but it's most importantly also to support the network. Individual miners are the ones that keep the Bitcoin network decentralized. And by the way, you get KYC free Bitcoin. That's why I use simplemining. I get an actual proper Bitcoin miner. They set it up for me. They repair it if it breaks down. And most importantly, they let me choose the pool and even connect my own full node. I'm completely sovereign and I'm completely in control, and I can sign up with Ocean, no account needed. I just give them a Bitcoin address and then there's mining going on. No KYC, nothing. So if you're ready to mine Bitcoin, go to simplemining.io, tell them you come from Robin, and let's mine Bitcoin together. I want to tell you about something very special to me. It's called Microseed. If you hold your Bitcoin in self-custody, and you should, you know how critical it is to secure your seed phrase. You should not have them on paper. You should not have them on anything else than titanium. With Microseed, you can engrave your 12 or 24 word seed phrase, the entire seed phrase, onto a 1-inch small washer. Yes, just one washer. All 24 words on that one washer. You can hide that thing everywhere. And even better, you don't need to buy a new kit every time you have to get a new wallet. You can make unlimited backups because Microseed is not selling the washer. Microseed is selling the device that stamps the washer. So you get the full kit with the device, with the washers, with the hammer, with everything you need to get started today. And you can make with that unlimited amount of backups. Go now to microseed.io. Again, that's microseed.io to get your last backup tool you ever need.
It's kind of like from first principles and from common sense. It makes so much sense to say, like, if you provide a lot of value for society, society should give you back. If you don't provide value, you still get things back. Like, why should I provide value then? It's that like very simple question of incentives. I think Charlie Munger said that, where show me your 5 biggest incentives and I show you what you will do. And this is unfortunately very true in Europe. I also feel almost in America, in a similar way, a lot of the problems you described for Europe, as I have a lot of American guests and most of the audience is in America, I feel a lot of the same problems are arising, even though they are not as socialist in America, but there are some tendencies to, especially like, we have to be careful because the United States is like a big place.
Yes.
And from state to state, it's like very different, like Texas and California, like two very different places, for example. And so like, it's very different. But there are some democratic and like very socialist, like thinking states where it is almost, it comes closer to what is in Europe. And then I think it's a great example also to have something like Dubai, where like, okay, you work hard, you do something and you actually get rewarded. So, I don't know, how this all will shake out. Like I really hope for Europe. I see some small indications that they might do something in the future. And it's not as bad that I currently want to, completely go away. But if it continues to get bad, like I'm very soon gone. This is it's super easy for me to just go. Like I don't have any income, like I have a zero income out of Austria. I just live here because I like the nature and I like my family, like my friends. So if the political sector, and that's actually the only reason why I watch the mainstream news, because I want to see the development on the political level of Austria. Like that's the single sole reason why I'm like, watching the news, because I want to see if something develops on a scale where I'm like, oh, I'm out of here. Like, I don't know where I would go. Like, Dubai is definitely one of the places where I would consider to go. But it is like, you have to look out for yourself, not just for your Bitcoin. Like a lot of people spend, and we can also talk about self-custody with you, but because a lot of people spend a lot of time, like, how do we secure Bitcoin? And then you're like, oh, but like, I'm still a factor. Like I'm still a vulnerability. And people are like, oh, I have Bitcoin. I don't have to care about politics. Yeah, you might change your opinion if they just put you into jail because of some tax fraud, because you couldn't pay your unrealized capital gains tax. And at some point you will give them your keys to your Bitcoin if they put you long enough in the jail. So it's a real risk for Bitcoiners. And so if you are in a jurisdiction and you don't pay attention where the political landscape is going, you run the risk of someone else just like deciding over your life. Like you have to pay attention to like what's going on, even in Dubai, even in El Salvador, wherever you are, because every country can turn bad. Like, we know those like Ray Dalio things where like countries go up and down. Like, so like, even if everything is amazing currently in your country, you still have to kind of pay attention. Does it continue to go in a good direction, or does it like fall off slowly? So like, I don't know. This was a small tangent on like why people should pay attention to like the political things in this jurisdiction that they're living, even though they are Bitcoiners.
100%. See, the thing is, Bitcoin gives you a lot of options, but the government of the country you live, actually the country where you live is called a country because it has borders. And if it didn't have borders, then everybody could just come in and go out, right? So, but because there is a border, or actually who is protecting you at that border, right? If you have a weak government who doesn't protect you anymore, or who actually is so hostile to that it attacks you itself inside the border, right? Based on your description, because they're bankrupt. See, if they cannot print money anymore, they're going to come after you. It's going to be more difficult to get your money if you're a Bitcoiner, but they are coming. Okay. Bitcoin is going to give you more optionality. Like if you have real estate, you're in a way, way, way worse position than a Bitcoiner, obviously, because the real estate actually doesn't belong to you. If the government who is securing your border decides that it's not yours anymore, it's not going to be yours anymore. Right. But with your Bitcoin, you have more flexibility to flee. But based on your point, or to follow up on your point, Robin, it is absolutely your problem, even as a Bitcoiner, if your government becomes so hostile that they want to come after you. And if you have your coins on an exchange, you know, it's like there's different levels, right? It gets worse the more trust you have put in others, right? If you have trusted the exchange to hold your Bitcoin, then it's just one notification to the exchange and it's gone. They're going to freeze your accounts and that's it. There's nothing you can do. If you do have self-custody, then you have much more control, right? But still, you are holding the keys. So they could come to your home and invade your home. I mean, we're probably still very far from that in Europe, but it is possible. And it is probable if it continues to become worse and worse and worse. And we've seen it in many other countries, that it can happen. And it is not something that is impossible. We've seen it in the Middle East, in many countries, that the governments just grasp for wealth as soon as they lose trust, right? Because they want to hold on to the power for as long as possible. And where are they going to get the money? They have to get the money from somewhere. And if you live in that country and you didn't pay attention, you didn't position yourself right, then it's going to be also your turn to hand over your keys or your Bitcoin. It's much harder though. I have to admit, I mean, this is the reason why we use Bitcoin, right? There is actually a much, much bigger pot for politicians, thankfully, until now, to go after real estate investors. It's much, much easier, or all the savings accounts in Germany. Germany has so much money. I think over a trillion, or I don't know how much it is. It's crazy how much money sits on bank accounts and just doesn't move because they have, I might be wrong with that number. Sorry if I'm wrong. You probably have to look it up, but it's a very, very big number because Germans are savers. They save a lot of money, and it's just one click for the government to just, go after your accounts, and there's nothing you can do. Nothing. One day you wake up and you cannot access your money. Happened to me before, personally. So I'm speaking from experience, and it really sucks. And it didn't happen in a totalitarian country. It actually happened to me in a first world country in Europe. So I know what I'm talking about. It happened. It can really, really happen. For whatever reason, you did something they didn't like. You are under suspicion of something that is not even true or might have happened, and they don't know. They can still do it, and they will do it. That's how it goes.
And this is a good point. Just right now, for example, in Austria, because this is the only politician thing that I really follow, I see that because we're making more and more, that we are now also one of the worst countries actually in the EU that actually have like an debt processing. I don't know. I have no clue how this is called in English. But because of that, the government wants to save money. But they're not only looking for like saving money, they're also looking at like where they can get more money out. And interesting part is like they are now exploring a little bit the option of property taxes. And as you said, this is always the first thing they do because they cannot move out the property. Like you cannot take your home and like put it to Dubai. You can sell your home in Austria. You can buy from that money a new home in Dubai, but you cannot just like take it with you. So property tax or like savings or like anything that they can very easily just like tax, they will tax first because Bitcoin is the hardest thing to tax ever. If you really want to subtract it, you basically have to threaten the individual itself, and you cannot just like take it. Like with real estate, it's super easy. Like they can just send a police car to your home and like, oh yeah, like pay your taxes or come with us. It's very easy to find. They know exactly where it is, and it's not even a little bit hard. But still, with Bitcoin, you run in this problem. For example, we have a wealth tax in Europe. For example, in the Netherlands, there is also, as I'm not a tax expert at all in the Netherlands, but as I understand it, they pay wealth tax every year, but not a capital gains tax, which is an interesting thing.
Same in Switzerland, by the way.
Oh, interesting. In Switzerland, they also have like wealth tax and
they
not
also
a
have
capital
a
gain.
wealth tax. Yes.
Is it also the same way that they assume a return, or is it the real return?
I lost you for a second. Say that again.
In the Netherlands, I saw that it was that actually they assume a return, and from that assumption of the return you made this year, they tax you, which is kind of an interesting thing where they don't take the real one. So you end up paying, I think, like around 1% of wealth tax in the Netherlands.
Crazy.
From what I understood. So I was just curious how this is in Switzerland.
No. In Switzerland, you have to make a declaration of your assets, and based on that, you will pay the tax, and the tax is variable. So based on the canton you live, it just goes up or down. So if you live in Zurich, you pay a different tax. If you live in Zug, you pay a different tax. So based on where you live, you pay a different kind of tax. But by the way, this was also one of the reasons I left Switzerland. because there was a tax, right? But I could leave very easily because I was a Bitcoiner, right? It was much easier to leave because I was a Bitcoiner. But if you're not a Bitcoiner, it's much more difficult because you have to take your assets with you. And if you want to take your assets with you, and you have, for example, real estate, you have to sell it. And then if you're lucky, you pay 10% tax on that or 20% tax on that. And then how do you take the money with you, right? Then the bank is gonna ask you, where is this kind of money coming from? And then you have to provide documents and you have to dox yourself there. Like, it's such a huge difference, Robin. It is unbelievably different how life is easier on a Bitcoin standard compared to anything else. When I started to learn about Bitcoin in 2018, it was not obvious to me, but the more I tried different assets, and you do try different assets once you want to invest money, the more I tried to invest in other assets, the more obvious it was that there is absolutely nothing that comes even close to the properties of Bitcoin. The level of freedom, the level of mobility that it provides, especially if you have saved all your life and you want to take it with you, it's unbelievable. And it's even in Europe, right? If you talk to people, they fail to see it because the inflation is quite low, but if you go, for example, to my home country, real estate prices have skyrocketed, literally skyrocketed. They've gone up 400%, 500% in local currency. But the banker says, come and put your money with us and we pay you 30% interest. And people do it. But the house you want to buy has gone up 500%, It's unbelievable. So it's in these countries, you have an inflation rate and an interest rate that is skyrocket high, but people still fall for it. So it's probably a game that is going to go on for much longer than you can imagine. Also in Europe, like, we think it's really bad now, but if you go to other countries, you realize it's not even close to bad. It's going to get way worse than it is today. I hope not. I feel a lot for Europe because I grew up in Europe. I consider myself German because I grew up in Germany. It breaks my heart to see Germany to go down like this much. Like, it's really crazy if you compare Germany to 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 10 years ago. It's a different place, completely different place. Every time I go, I just want to leave after 7 days. I don't want to stay for longer than 7 days.
I love that. It's unfortunately very true. You can see it, you can feel it. You mentioned someone in your family that you debated the political perspective on Bitcoin, which I was kind of interested in because I think since Trump came out and supported Bitcoin, there's this perception that Bitcoin is right, where Bitcoin has a political thing. It is not the perception of Bitcoiners, but it's a perception of people that have no clue about Bitcoin. Because if you actually understand Bitcoin, it's the most neutral thing ever. But if you only see the news and you're like, oh, Trump support, every time I turn on the news, mainstream news in Austria, and Bitcoin comes in, they're like, Bitcoin grew because of Trump. Like that's literally what they say. And then I'm like, that's not the reason why Bitcoin grows. Like that's a consequence why, like this is a consequence of Bitcoin growing is that Trump supports it. That's not the reason why Bitcoin grows is not because of Trump. The Trump supporting is a consequence because Bitcoin is growing. That like the whole thing, like the logic is really flawed there. But you mentioned that debate, and I was curious on your thoughts on the perspective on Bitcoin politically, and if it's like maybe even like a bad thing that like Trump came out and like supported it because it has now from no coiners this perspective of, hey, if I buy Bitcoin, I support this Trump guy now, which is obviously not true, but the perspective is sometimes there.
Yeah, the misconception is that first of all, it's very hard to tell, but most people who say these things are people who want to justify why they shouldn't buy Bitcoin because they feel salty because they missed it. Okay, that's one of the main reasons that I believe people say things that they say. And when it comes to my conversation, what I was told was, yeah, I get it. It's a decentralized currency, but it doesn't solve the problem. You know, and I'm like, well, if you are, let's say you are left, okay? You're on the left and you are pro immigration and you want to help everybody in the world and you want to empower everybody on planet Earth. You're not thinking of your own country only. You're thinking of every human being on planet Earth. You don't care about your own race. You don't care about your own political party. You're not right. You're not middle. You're more left. Okay. Which is something that everybody thinks Bitcoin is not. Okay. Well, first of all, everybody on planet Earth can access Bitcoin. Every single human being with just access to internet or satellite can access Bitcoin. So it is the most global asset worldwide. It is the most liquid asset globally. And it is the most transportable asset globally, which means it is the most pro-human asset worldwide, in my opinion, because everybody can access it. Everybody can mobilize it to immigrate to another country. Everybody can mobilize it to flee inflation. Everybody can mobilize it to flee their politician because they're being followed by their government because of something they did that is not illegal in our countries, but illegal in their countries. It gives freedom and access to sovereignty to every single human being on planet Earth, period. Independent of your skin, independent of your religion, independent of your beliefs, independent of your left, right, middle, doesn't matter where you stand. It is for every single human being. So that's what Bitcoin is. It is everything but political, actually. It gives finally the option to say no to everybody, including including whether you're left or right. It doesn't actually matter. It does not matter. You can have no opinion and it's still for you. It's going to be always there for you, even if you hate it because you think you missed it and you believe only nerds own it and they got so rich and now it's way too late anyways. It's fine. It's going to be there for you at 500K, at 1 million, at 10 million. It's going to be waiting for you. And you're going to see the light at some point. It's going to sound a little bit religious at this point, but that's truly my belief. Everybody will come to Bitcoin at some point. Everybody will come to Bitcoin at some point. And it's always going to be there for you. It's always going to be waiting for you. It's going to always be the option that you choose. Nobody's going to force you onto Bitcoin, just like other currencies. All the other currencies you see worldwide are enforced on citizens. Bitcoin is not. Bitcoin is something a huge number of people, including myself and you, Robin, and many others, have chosen voluntarily. We have chosen it because we see value in it for its properties. And if you use logic and not emotion and regret and political thoughts that have absolutely nothing to do, but think actually of yourself and your future self, your family, actually your entire career, wherever you are, or whatever you do for a living, your income is for your future. And Bitcoin is available to make sure you can keep that future. Because if you don't use it, you are going to get robbed. You're going to get rug pulled, and governments who give you a fake currency that they call money are going to dilute your purchasing power over time, and you're going to get poorer and poorer and poorer. It's that simple. It has absolutely nothing to do with your political views. If a politician endorses it, is not because Bitcoin needed him or her. It's the exact opposite. It's because the politician needed Bitcoin, not the other way. They need Bitcoin. Bitcoin doesn't need anybody. It's going to be there for everybody, but it doesn't need you. If you don't adopt it, even if you're the most powerful man worldwide, let's take Elon Musk. He said, I hate Bitcoin. I hate Bitcoiners. They're so toxic. They're mad at me, and they're very rude. What happened? Yes, the price dumped a little bit for a while. Now we're back to over 100K, and Elon is still denying Bitcoin, in my opinion. Did it care? It doesn't care. You can be the most wealthy person worldwide. The network is going to continue to exist, and it's going to work exactly as designed. That's my take.
And Elon even still owns Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, he never sold all of his Bitcoin, right? But he stopped talking about it. Probably better if you don't understand much about the technology. It's probably better. It is a difficult topic. Bitcoin is complicated. As much as we understand Bitcoiners that it is not, it is complicated. If you have never studied money and you don't understand why inflation is a problem, it's difficult. If you're used to live in this world where, you just buy your home and keep paying your mortgage, and you're used to things getting more and more expensive over time, and you just think that's the reality, it's very difficult to understand a radical new idea that will solve all of this. It's a radical new idea. That's why people still don't get it. I'm not sure when they will get it. I don't know, but they still don't get it.
I think it takes time, like I just talked, I was, I think yesterday on a Twitter space with the Bitcoin Amsterdam guys, and it was really interesting with talking with them. I think Brandon from Green Candle was on there, and some moderators. And we talked about like, why is it so hard to like grasp Bitcoin? And it's like, yeah, because it takes time. Like it took me 3 years to go over the hump of it being a scam. Like it not being a scam. Like I needed a long time to actually like, oh, I was wrong. Like I made false assumptions, and I needed time to prove myself wrong. Prove myself wrong. And then I needed another 1-2 years to go all in, to really have like, oh, like, okay, that's not only a good idea, it's not only a great idea, it's like the best idea I've ever come across. So it takes time. Like, just because we are in a global civilization now where everything is connected with the internet doesn't mean the brain is updated. Like we still need time to process things. Our our brain is the same than 30 years ago. We can make even arguments that it works a little less good because we get so much help from Google search and AI now that like we kind of relax the brain too much. But that's a whole nother discussion. It takes time for people to really grasp it. And I kind of am like, I'm impressed by how far we've already come in like just 16 years. Like money takes a long time to actually get adopted. And yeah, I'm excited for the future. It gives me and it gives all the Bitcoiners in the world a little bit longer time to accumulate, which I think is a positive thing, especially for individuals and for the grassroots movement. I'm happy. Like now the October started and it actually started as intended. And I'm like, everything gets more expensive now. Like I want to buy Bitcoin.
Well,
I don't want to buy anything
things
else.
around you get less expensive. They become cheaper, but the Bitcoin itself is getting more expensive. No, but I completely agree with what you just said. And one thing I want to tell you personally, Robin, is that that's actually what I believe makes your work so important, what you do and other podcasters in the Bitcoin space. Sometimes when you're in front of the camera and you're talking to somebody, you actually don't realize how many lives you actually change. But you really do. Every episode you record, every time you get a guest on that explains Bitcoin, brings somebody to a moment of, oh my God, now I get it. Because you had that moment, I had that moment, and we were also listening to some dude on some podcast. And because he said a few things that we still had in our heads not completely figured out, and all the things we heard before that, it just clicked suddenly. But you don't know, with some people, it's one thing. With other people, it's different things. For me, I knew so much about Bitcoin, but the thing about decentralization, the word decentralization, I knew what it meant, but I didn't really know what it meant. It just took time for me to click. And I was like, oh, so wait, so it's unstoppable. Like it's like a clock. It's like a ticking clock that is everywhere in the world, and nobody can stop this clock, right? And for that idea to really, really click in my head, it took a long time, and it took many, many episodes and many, many books to grasp. That's why I think you should definitely do what you do. And we as Bitcoiners who do understand this, we have to educate more people and be patient, because it's gonna cost a lot of nerves to get everybody on board.
We need, I think this is one thing that I remembered out of the first ever episode we did together, was we need more salespeople in Bitcoin.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. We do. That's why we have to be loud, and I include myself. I need to go more on podcasts and talk about this. I would probably not have come to the idea to come to your podcast until you asked me. I should go more on podcasts to talk about this. It's just very difficult to build a company and at the same time go on podcasts. It's a little bit difficult. That's why Sina is more the guy who goes on podcasts, and I'm trying to handle everything in the background. But I think it's most effective if everybody talks about this topic and gets as many people on board as we can, and help them with custody, help them understand the asset class, and make sure they do it correctly, they do it safely, securely, and so on and so forth. So we just had another case. I'm not sure if you saw it online. Somebody who got phished and lost all his Bitcoin from his ledger. So you really need to also understand how you do the custody in order to make it in Bitcoin, because custody is also That's why we do what we do, because custody is really difficult for some people. Probably for your generation or my generation is not that difficult, but for people who are not tech savvy, it is really a challenge. And then they leave it on the exchanges, and that's not what we want, right? We want people to take self-custody. So I think that's also a very, very important part.
Great power comes with great responsibility, I guess.
Absolutely.
Before we come to it's been already an hour, but before we come to the end,
flies with you.
It really flies. Like I have prepared some questions, and I didn't come to any of those. But this is, I think, the power of actually. Some people, I mean, this is a whole different rabbit hole now. Some people complained that I put a trailer in front of the podcast. I know it's better for the podcast, and it gives people an idea what comes in the podcast. But some people actually reached out to me and saying they always jump over the trailer because they want to see the natural progression of two minds coming together and having a conversation. And they kind of want to see they kind of bounce off each other and where does this end up? And they really get the joy out of that. And so I in the beginning, in my first probably 30, 50 episodes, I did a very systematic, what I ask and what are the topics. And I was very prepared for every episode. Now I'm let's just have a conversation.
Yes, it's much better. Somewhere. It's much better. I agree. Sometimes, some people prepare a lot of stuff, but I think the best conversations happen when you don't plan them. So it's best if you just have a conversation, talk about what's happening, and let's probably end the podcast with the statement of keep going with the content, keep educating everybody about the topic, and everybody who is listening, keep supporting people like Robin. Forward these videos. It's very important for. I know a lot of Bitcoiners who've given up already trying to orange pill others, but I think we should not stop. And it's really frustrating. I've been trying to orange pill people over the past 5 years, but it is unbelievable how many people I managed to orange pill because I didn't give up. And, I did not blame them for not listening to me. Instead, I just kept my arms open when they came and they did listen finally. That's how you get people over, just be the hero for everybody around you. And keep educating everybody, keep sharing videos, and let's spread the word, and let's have more grassroots adoption and not only institutional people coming in. Let's have more. That's why I think your podcast is so important, including others like Mr. M and everybody else in the space who are interviewing other Bitcoiners. That's how we educate individuals, and not only big people who talk behind the cameras in private scenes. They're getting orange pilled as we speak right now. They are, but they're getting orange pilled in private, and you don't have access to that. And your loved ones also don't have access to that. But you can help educate others by forwarding them the content that they need to get educated.
Very true. And we have one question that I asked each and every one of my returning guests at the end of the podcast. And the question is, what have you learned outside of Bitcoin since your last appearance?
What have I learned from my last appearance? Oh, yes, I can tell you. Get married.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you. Yes. A lot of people are afraid to get married, but I can only recommend you should get married. It's a beautiful thing. I just got married, and it's a good thing. It really is. Obviously you have to have the right person next to you in order to make that decision. But once you do, don't hesitate. And that's what I learned. And I'm prioritizing my family now. I'm prioritizing my life and trying to educate more, be less aggressive towards your fellows, try to orange pill them. That's also what I learned. Less toxicity, more love. As you said on Twitter lately, I saw your tweet. Let's spread love instead of hate, and let's educate people around us and focus on family, God, and Bitcoin.
I love
God,
that.
family, and Bitcoin. God, family, and Bitcoin. That's a sequence. Thank you.
Yeah, people get mad at me if when I get the sequence wrong. We have also, as you know, the end routine where the previous guest is asking a question for the next guest, and the previous guest asked you an interesting one. I think for you very clear to answer, but I'm curious what you think about that.
Yes.
He asked, "Is custodial Bitcoin bad for Bitcoin?"
No. You wanted me. You probably thought I'm going to say yes, but I don't think it's bad for Bitcoin. But this is not where my answer ends. It's bad for you. It's not bad for Bitcoin. Bitcoin doesn't care. Bitcoin is at a point that it doesn't actually. Obviously, you can argue it needs all of us, and it does. It's true. But if you don't self-custody and you custody your Bitcoin on an exchange, it's not going to be bad for Bitcoin. It's going to be bad for you. Because if that custodial wallet gets hacked or phished or tracked down by the government and they have to give up the keys to the government or whatever, or anything that can happen, right? Because you don't own it, then you're out of luck. It's that simple. So I think it's bad for the individual. It's not bad for Bitcoin. Bitcoin will be custodied by large institutions. There's nothing we can do about it. And it doesn't matter, in my opinion. And it's probably a very unpopular opinion, but I don't think it actually matters as much as people say. This is not a proof of stake network. It's a proof of work network. So obviously, if we start to see 90% of the coins being held in one place, that's a bad thing, right? It's not the best thing. We don't want that to happen. But we're not even close to that, and it's mainly held by individuals, right? So, in my opinion, it's bad for the individual if it does not self-custody, and not for Bitcoin. It doesn't matter to the network. The network is going to continue.
I like that perspective and I like that answer a lot. And I think Coinbase is currently probably the one that holds the most keys to the most Bitcoin because they have the BlackRock Bitcoin. They probably also have a lot of the treasury company Bitcoins. I don't know exactly the number, but it's probably under 2 million. So we're very far away from 90%.
Yeah, but just one thing I want to say, Robin, it's good that you mentioned that. One thing, you don't have to worry about that either. Why? Because over time, because this is not physical gold, it is Bitcoin, right? And over time, like for example, just yesterday, I believe I saw the news that there is now redemptions are now redemptions are now possible for Bitcoin ETFs on BlackRock. So you can redeem your Bitcoin out of your ETF to self-custody now, right? So because this is a mobile digital asset, it's not a physical asset. And because its nature at its core is digital, you will always have the option to self-custody at some point. And because you have that option built in the protocol, it automatically by design, custodians in this case, not Coinbase, but I'm talking about BlackRock, they will want to diversify the risk. So at some point, even they will not want to have one place where they hold all their Bitcoin, right? And they can move the Bitcoin over time to different counterparties or to a multi-sig or whatever, or even do it themselves differently, right? It's not something like gold that we need to worry about. Oh, everything is now in one place. It's going to be the incentives to hoard gold in one place are aligned perfectly. But the incentives for Bitcoin to be held in one place are terrible. Like the incentives are perfect to spread it to many locations, and because you can, right? And because you have that incentive to and the possibility to actually do it, I think over time that problem is gonna become less and less of a problem. And the reason we have the situation that we have right now is because we're still so early. These companies still haven't figured out the custody part of it. That's why, and they wanted to launch this product as quickly as possible. And this was the fastest way to do so. But if you look at Fidelity, for example, they don't do that, right? Because Fidelity has been in the marketplace since 2014, I believe, which is over 10 years, which is like a century in Bitcoin terms. It's a long, long time. So I think over time, we're going to have less risk of Bitcoin being in one place and more different custodians that will come together to custody the Bitcoin. So there's nothing to worry about.
I like that. Looking from the incentives, because as we also said before, incentives are always the one, like just like looking at the incentives, you know where the direction is going, and looking from the incentives of, hey, how do I distribute my Bitcoin? Like even from an individual one, like you're like, okay, like at some point you want to have not just everything on one wallet. You want to have multi-signature. You want to have time locks. You want to have all those things slowly built in. So even on an individual basis, you want to decentralize in a kind of a way how you hold your Bitcoin, so you have less things that can go wrong. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, man, with you talking. And before I let you go, where can people find you and ask you questions?
Well, I'm on X, so I'm the CEO of 21st Capital. So our website is 21stcapital.com. So you can find me definitely on 21stcapital.com. If you want to reach out, talk about custody, we can help you do your custody properly. That's what we do. That's what the company is for. But obviously, I'm also on X. It's RKBTC. So I'm on X as well. I always get my handle. I really apologize. I think, yes, it's RKBTC. It's correct. Yeah. RKBTC is my handle on Twitter. And yeah, that's where people can find me and us, the company.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on, Ruzbeh. And also thank you so much for everyone that is watching and listening, for joining us today. As always, I'll be back tomorrow with another episode. Bye-bye. This content is for educational and entertainment purposes only and does not constitute financial advice.